Hi everyone and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in southern Tasmania. Thanks for joining me, and also thanks for purchasing my Hydrangea Haven class by mail. These are the video tutorials for that class, so hopefully you'll find them clear. And oh, hang on, I'm just checking my volume. That looks okay to me. Hopefully you'll find the tutorials clear, but there will also be written instructions that I'll send through to you, plus the measurements of the cards will be in those written notes, and I'll pop them in the comments for the videos as well. So hopefully you've got as much information as you need to produce these cards. If not, please reach out to me and ask any questions you may have. I'm happy to help as always. Anyway, so I thought we'd start with this card here. It's a nice little fairly simple card which highlights the beautiful designer series paper from the Hydrangea Hill suite. Also the sweet little ribbon, which I'm glad to say is continuing on in the next catalogue, as is the stamp set and bundle, which is really good to know, so we can use this one for a long time to come. So this one actually uses the dies here to stamp this beautiful hydrangea with its stem and leaves, but also it has a fill-in stamp for a separate colour fill-in stamp for the bloom itself and the leaves and stem. So you can do that lovely and quickly without having to colour things in. I've also highlighted, and I don't know if you can see there, you probably can in the light, I've used a smaller individual bloom stamp just to add a little bit of extra depth to that sort of shadow side of the hydrangea, just to give it a little bit of a 3D effect. Plus we're also using the really nice sort of block colour stamp behind in the soft sea foam, which is a beautiful colour, which is unfortunately is retiring come the 4th of May, but grab it now if you would like to have it for your stash. Anyway, so let's get started with this one. So these videos are good for me because I get to see whether I've actually given you everything in your kit that I promised to, because I actually just grab random kits to use in the video. So if there's anything missing, I will find out. Probably a little bit late for the ones I've already posted out, but in your kit obviously you get 2 of these cards, so I just have to bring out the cardstock for one, leave the other one behind. So you've got a card base, which would be our normal 4 1/8 by 5 3/4 card base, but I've chopped about an inch. I think it's 1.25 inches. Yeah, it's about 1 3/8 off this edge, leading edge here, just to give the sort of gate fold card effect that we're going for. And this is in Highland Heather cardstock. Then I've got basic white cardstock. I've got a panel of basic white for the inside of our card, just with a very small gap there, and another one for the front panel of our card, like that. I'm just going to move these things out of the way, they're getting a bit distracting. Okay, so you've got those there. Make sure that doesn't fall and make a horrible noise. You've also got some pieces of designer series paper, which is this beautiful purple or heather coloured stripe. Plus you've got, I have to get it out of there, you've got your envelopes of course. Plus you've got some spare cardstock for stamping, which I've got to make sure I get the right one out. Bear with me, the next time I'll put everything out first. I just wanted to make sure everything was there. Let's pop all this to the side. We've got that, we've got that. We've got this one. This one. And that one, we've got that one. Okay, you've got some spare designer series paper for stamping your flower. Plus you've got these little ones here, which are the ones that go on the front, which form the sort of gate, which is those 2 there. Don't worry about the measurements at this stage. As I say, I will put them in the written instructions and also in the comments after the videos go up. Okay, so let's get started making this one. So the first thing you probably need to do is pop this piece of cardstock on the inside of your card. I can see straight away I've made this one slightly too large. I may have to trim that down a bit, apologies for that. looks like I've made it the full, I only want it to be 4 inches. Okay, it's a tiny bit too wide. So if you find yours is a tiny bit too wide, just give it a bit of a cut down. I think because it's got a fold in there, it's slightly a little bit too wide with the fold taken into account. Okay, so we'll pop that. That looks better. That's it. Okay, so we'll glue that one in. Just grab some glue. And just now my kids decide to grind coffee in the kitchen, so forgive that noise if you can hear it. Thought they're going out this afternoon. Maybe I should have waited for the quiet. But anyway. Okay, so we'll just pop this one straight inside. Same sort of gap all the way around, top and bottom. Should only be a tiny little gap. Make sure that folds up fine. Yes, it does. Okay. So then this other little very skinny piece of cardstock, this little one here, pops just exactly down the edge of the right hand edge. So the piece that's exposed, because we've cut out a part of the front, just pop the tiny skinny piece of cardstock in there. And so you need to keep the same gap beneath it, so you know, sort of the same sort of 1/16 of an inch or a millimetre top, bottom and side. There we are, just like that. Okay, so that's that done. Okay, so then what we can do is do the same for our front piece. So you've got this piece here which fits just nicely on the front sort of part cover or part card front that we've got left. That pops on there first, and then the same sort of thing as we did on the back, we pop our cardstock on top of there, just like that. Just checking that I've cut that straight, and I have. Yes, that's good, no more mistakes. Here we are, just like that. So the idea we're going for here is that if the card is closed, it looks like it's a continual sort of panel of designer series paper, just with this little thin sort of border down the bottom, just like that. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's keep going. So what we can do now is bring in this piece of design Highland Heather cardstock, and we can just pop the white one that's corresponding size just straight on top. And then we can start stamping that one with our really pretty blue background stamp, sort of splodge stamp. So I've got this one here, it's all blocked up, you can see it there, it's just like a whitewash of a paint brush or something there. I'm going to grab our Seaside Spray ink. Now I think with the original one I have actually stamped off the Seaside Spray once, just to make it really faint. I might do that again, just find a scrap of paper. And I'll show you the difference between the two generations. So that's first generation and that's second generation. So I'm definitely going to go with the second generation on the background of that one, because this is quite, it's not dark, but it's quite dark, and I don't want that to be that dark. So we're going to go second generation onto our cardstock here. Okay, so we're doing 3 of those. I'm going to start towards the top, over to the top left hand side, not right at the top, but sort of about 1 centimetre down, like that, and then line it up as well as you can so they don't overlap but they sort of kiss each other, and then put one sort of towards the right hand side, and then go back to the left. So we've got sort of like a zigzaggy sort of effect with our background stamps, just like that. And hopefully you can see that because it is quite pale. That's the look we're going for there, except for that little splodge there which we'll cover, so that's fine. Okay, so we can pop that aside for the moment and bring in our piece of spare cardstock that we have for stamping. So this time you actually want our big beautiful hydrangea flower there, the whole kit and caboodle, the stem and the flower, and just in some black ink, or black, yes, black ink, ink that one up. And stamp it. Now, if we have discussed this already and you have not bought the dies, I will have already die cut that for you. So all you'll have to do is stamp it with the black, sort of line it up with the die cut underneath and stamp it. But most of you, or everyone who's bought it up to this moment, has bought both the dies and the stamps. So I'm leaving you, because it's much easier to actually die. It's actually much easier to die cut once you've already stamped. So now we're going to use the fill-in stamps, which I haven't blocked up, which was a bit silly. Should have blocked them up first of all. So we've got the fill-in stamps here. You could colour these with, you know, blends or anything really that you like the idea of, but I'm going to use the fill-in stamps because I love to use all the stamps I possibly can when we do these classes. I'm going to grab the, again, no, that's a seaside spray. I'm going to grab the Highland Heather, which I don't know why I've got out, but I have. Anyway, we use the Highland Heather. We're going to stamp that the colour there over the bloom. Now, it's not an exact fit. It's one of those sort of artistic ones that tend to sort of overlap the edges a little bit. So if that worries you, you might be worried by this, but generally, because we're going to die cut it, we're going to die cut most of that away. And I should take it, had a foam mat under that, but it seems to have worked okay. If you find that your photopolymer stamps don't stamp very completely or they miss patches, prop a foam mat or a silicone mat or something underneath when you're stamping, and it will make sure that it'll improve the coverage. It's just that they are quite firm stamps, very sturdy stamps. They're going to last you forever, but sometimes because they're missing that foam, or no, that rubber of a rubber stamp, sometimes it doesn't give complete coverage. So now I'm going to just, in the old olive, going to do our stems and leaves. There we are. My old olive is getting a little bit unjuicy. I need to re-ink it, but I think it's okay for this. Don't want it too dark anyway. So sort of, again, line up as best you can, as again, it's one of those stamps that's going to go over the edges a wee bit, but it'll be fine once we die cut it. There we are. Okay, pop that back so I don't lose it. Right. Okay, so now we're going to grab our dies and we're going to die cut that. If you haven't got the dies, you can fussy cut it. There's not a problem. The shapes aren't that complicated, but die cutting makes it so much easier. So there's the die that sits on that. I might use my little mini die cutting machine for this. Save the whole all the wiggling and wobbling of the large machine. Make sure I've got all the plates out. They're the ones I need. That one, 1, 2, and 2. So it's just a lovely, nice little machine, just right for the odd small die. Put that there, and this one will fit just nicely in there. Okay, just put that on there like that. Move it over a bit. It's a bit hard. I'm coming in at a funny angle with the video camera up top, so you guys can probably see better than I can. Okay, so we'll pop that through. Just a nice little die. And there we go. There we are, just perfect. Lovely little cutting machine, this one. I'll pop over here now. We'll bring that back in a minute. So there's our poinsettia. There's our hydrangea all cut. So what we can do is bring back the little background one that we've done, and we're going to put our hydrangea on just like that. So just so that it sort of rests, we're going to obviously put it on some dimensionals, but it's just so it rests there. So before I go any further, I might pop the sentiment on, just so that I know where it's going to go, and I don't and I leave myself enough space. So I'm going to use the You Make Me Smile, which is really lovely, from the stamp set, the Hydrangea stamp set, and I'm just going to pop that just there like that. So You Make Me Smile. You can put whatever sentiment there, of course, that you would like. No compulsion to use the same ones. We're going to bring in our dimensionals and mount up our hydrangea. And just popping them on around the place. Yeah, take their backs off. And we're going to pop that onto our card front, just like that. There we are. Isn't that lovely? Okay, so what we can do now, while we have, doesn't really matter, I suppose. Well, we can pop the card front onto the front of our card. So what we're going to do is pop some glue, but we're only going to pop it towards the left-hand side. So don't go putting it on all over, because you're going to then this part of the card here, as you can see, if I open it up, will float free. So you don't need glue on there. So it's just on the left-hand side. And then line it up so it's the same gap, top, bottom and sides, or same on the sides and then on the top and the bottom. And the lines make it really easy, because then you can gauge. You can gauge that it's straight, that it just moved as I move my hand away. Here we are. Okay, so that's really nice. There we are. Okay, so last things, we're going to make a nice little bow. Now I've given you enough bow here, ribbon here, to make it 2 bows for your card. So I'm just going to make myself 1, and then pop the rest back in the pack for the next person, or the person that gets the rest of this pack. I just make a little bow like that. Trim off the excess. Then use some glue or a glue dot. I'm going to use a glue dot to attach that to the stem. Find my glue dots. Where are you? found them. Gosh, they weren't where they were supposed to be. Okay, so let's grab a little glue dot. Make sure I put it the right way up on the back. And then just pop it wherever you want it, up high, down low, it's really up to you. Put it there sort of halfway, just like that. Okay, so there's also in your set you'll have 3 rhinestones per card, so we want 3 rhinestones on this as well. One, two, and the last one. It's really up to you where you pop these, but I sort of like them in the little nooks and crannies of things, so there, a bit like that. Okay, so one last thing you can do if you really would like to is, and I have done it on my original card, is grab this other little bloom insert stamp here, which has just got lots of little blooms and some flowers and things, and I've just popped that just in the centre at the bottom, just to dress up a little bit, bring the blooms from the outside into the inside. And it also has a little infill stamp, so I'm going to grab back my Highland Heather ink and just fill that in. So as again, same with the front, the hydrangea we used on the front, the infill stamp doesn't exactly, just sort of gives the colour all the way around. There we are. So it just sort of gives the sort of the hint of colour around the places where it's supposed to be. I don't know, sort of an artistic look, just like that. Okay, so there is card number 1 of our class, our Hydrangea Haven class. So there we are, the original, and there's our one that we've just, oh goodness me, one last thing. This tiny little bloom, I knew I had it out for a reason. Apologies there. Hope you haven't turned off already. This is the tiny little bloom, single bloom from the kit. And what I've done is actually give the flower some highlights by just popping just a second layer of just using this little bloom just on the lower half. May have actually been better to do that before I stuck it to the card, but it seems to work quite well, and we're just going for a hint of colour, so that's good. There we go, that's better. Sorry about that. One more thing. Cool. So there we are, that's our card finally done. It's the joy of doing these things, you sort of realise you've missed something off, but there you are. So there we are, we have just sort of a shadow, just where the flower would be in shadow, it's slightly darker there. You can do it all over if you like that effect, do it all over and turn it into a really beautiful dark hydrangea, but I quite like it just on that lower half. Okay, so there we are, that's card number 1 for this class. I'm going to just tidy up a little bit and block up the other blocks that were stamps that we need for the other cards, and I'll be back to you very shortly.